A young woman was brutally murdered in Georgia. And the man who did it was a criminal alien living in this country under sanctuary policies. He didn't go to this university, apparently did not know this woman, and he killed her. And it's a sad, terrifying story. New details are emerging. And now the mayor of Athens, Georgia, is saying, Trump was using the most vile rhetoric to describe foreign-born people. The absolute scumbag. I'm just so sick of it, man. Donald Trump referred to criminals in unsavory and unflattering terms, not the foreign-born. And it is because of these psychopaths we get these stories. Here we are. Trump blames Biden's border invasion for Laken Riley murder and vows the largest deportation operation if elected. And this is why people say they're going to vote for Donald Trump. Man, this one riles me up. It's so hard to read this story. Let me tell you a story first. Let me tell you a story, my friend. Story time with Tim Pool. I lived in Florida. Briefly lived in the Miami area near Homestead, in the Redlands, they call it. It's a 5-acre property. It was like kind of a farm property. And one day we heard from some locals, be careful, that some men were invading homes. The story we were told was basically a guy was upstairs in his house in the shower. And when he got out of the shower in his towel, he heard noise coming from downstairs. He went downstairs, and as he was walking down the stairs, 2 guys were there, and one guy pulled out a gun and shot him and killed him. That was it. He was dead. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know the full details. This is what the neighbors told us, and they said, be careful because there was a string of home invasions and people had died. The people that were, I don't know the full details, but what we were ended up being told. So this is around the time I was like, man, we probably need to get guns or something like this. We were told the guys who were doing it were criminal aliens. They had entered the country illegally, and they were attacking people's homes in rural areas knowing that there's no police and that they would bring guns to kill anyone who fought back. And they killed the guy. The locals there said criminal aliens, illegal immigrants, broke into people's homes. They're a real threat. So when Donald Trump showed up for a rally in Fort Lauderdale, and I was there, and I was talking to people, there was a woman who mentioned that her son had been killed by an illegal immigrant driving his car, drunk and crashed and killed him, didn't have insurance. Or I think he hit him and then fled because he was illegal and didn't have insurance. I am just so sick of these stories. These people should not be here. Now, of course, the argument from the left is anyone can commit crimes, Tim. Anyone could have crashed a car and hit and run. American citizens do it too. And I'm like, right. And this young man would be alive if that criminal alien wasn't allowed in the country. What's your point? This young woman would be alive if we stopped allowing criminal aliens to enter this country. Let alone the fact that Gen Z can't afford to buy houses, start families, or live, and they're giving luxury apartments, hotel rooms, to criminal aliens, and they're giving them debit cards with cash on them. I want you to hear this exchange. Jack Posobiec tweets. He says, here is the mayor of Athens, Georgia, telling us we must respect the dignity of migrants and tries to deflect to Trump and Charlottesville. Absolute scumbag. Laken Riley was just beaten to death under his sanctuary city policies.
Humanity is the expectation of human dignity. While 2019 was not that long ago, you might remember the dynamic we were living in the late teens in this country, where you had the President of the United States speaking in the most vile terms about people who were foreign born.
A lie. A disgusting lie. It is people like this that are responsible for these innocent deaths. They allowed it to happen. And they blamed Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's whole campaign premise was we're going to build a big, beautiful 30-foot concrete wall from sea to shining sea. Impractical, silly, but we got the point. We cannot allow criminals to break into our homes and kill young people. Sell drugs, fentanyl. But here we are, thanks to these zealous cult members.
And you had that notion metastasizing in places like Charlottesville.
Charlottesville. We're
When I
scumbags.
was
So
younger,
when we have-
I was a criminal. And you know what I thought about doing? Crossing the border to Mexico to get away from my crimes.
Son, I'm going to ask you to
Thanks
leave.
Jesus Christ, he saved me, and I no longer live that lawless life. But you do.
Son, I'm going to ask you to leave.
You are lawless, Mr. Mayor.
I'd be glad to schedule some time with you if you'd like some individual time.
Yeah, I'd like to spend some time with you.
Let's do that, but I need to continue.
I got a question.
Sorry.
I'm with
So
We the
are you going
People.
to
I have
rescind
a
the
question.
resolution? Is that still in place? Does that give the impression this is a sanctuary city?
What-
No, you can't call it that under Georgia law?
What we wish to do is dignify everybody's humanity. There's nothing in that
No,
resolution.
no.
Even the murderer presumably was trying to rape this young woman and panicked because she fought back, so he crushed her skull. The dignity of these humans.
That's
That
not
creates-
the law. You
did
took
not
an
do
oath to
right.
uphold the law, not your feelings or nor your opinion.
Chief, I don't
You
know if
called
That's
me a
what you're
white
upholding.
supremacist.
No, sir. You're talking BS to us right now.
I need to answer one question at a time.
These people are evil. Abject evil. With a smile on his face, he says, Donald Trump in Charlottesville after a young woman is brutally murdered. Here we go. The New York Post. Migrant charged with murdering Laken Riley likely panicked when she fought back. Profiler. The Venezuelan migrant charged with murdering Laken Riley likely panicked and bashed in her skull when the brave nursing student tried to fight back, according to an analysis from a former criminal profiler. Jose Antonio Ibarra, 26, has been charged with multiple murder and assault counts in the death of the 22-year-old whose skull was disfigured when she died of blunt force trauma. You know what's fascinating? There's a quote here, and it says, and the cowardly killer likely panicked while trying to, and then it stops. And I was like, what was he trying to do? I think we all know what he was trying to do. He was a sick piece of human trash. He still is. And he was trying to rape this young woman. And she said no, so he crushed her skull. And I'm supposed to sit here and listen to this mayor say it's Trump's fault for using bad language about foreign-born people. I like immigrants. I love immigrants. I want all the immigrants of the world to come to America. Oh, yeah. I'll get into arguments with all the conservatives, but I'll tell you this. All the immigrants in the world that come here have to come here legally. And that means there's going to be a process by which they can come here legally. That means we'll only allow a certain amount to come in every year. It means they must meet certain criteria. So not every person in the world gets to be a migrant that comes to this country. But I am a big fan of brain draining other countries. You want to win war? We don't need war. Let's take all the most intelligent people from these other countries and capable, give them better lives, entice them to come here, and we can bask in the technological and intelligent and capable revolution. You take the smartest people from Russia, Russia's not going to be able to fight a war, are they? So we don't need war. We need to win through economics, through sound policy. We got to do that by having a secure border. Instead, we're doing the opposite of a brain drain. A brain drain refers to when the smartest people of a nation flee and go somewhere else. Instead, the United States under Joe Biden is allowing millions, 10 million plus criminals. Yeah, criminals. I'll say it again, criminals. The immigrants who come to the U.S. border and say, I would like to come to your country. These are good people. They believe in this country. They see value here. I respect it. You come, you knock on my door, I will hear you out. Maybe we've got room for you, but there are rules. You smash my window, you come in, and you beat and kill my children, and we're going to build that wall. I'm glad this mayor said this. And I hope that message he said goes far and wide. And I'm going to say it to every single person I meet who's like, Donald Trump said bad things about migrants and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be like, 22-year-old girl had her skull crushed by a criminal alien. And when they say anyone can commit crimes, you can't conflate immigration with crime. That's what they're trying to do. I say, what does that have to do with the fact that if this man had been stopped, this young woman would be alive? I don't care if people in the U.S. commit crimes relative to this story, because we have police, we have laws, attempts to stop those crimes from happening. But you want to tell me anyone in America can commit a crime, Tim? It's not immigration that makes the crime. This guy committed a crime, and if he was stopped, this young woman would be alive. It's that simple. If a guy steals a purse and you don't arrest him, and then a week later murders somebody, I will be mad too. The point is this. If the law was enforced, this young woman would be alive. It's remarkable. And a lot of people, they vote for it. They say, in this case, the offender was met with resistance, which he wasn't expecting. And it got overpowering and he couldn't control it. And he resorted to violence. Well, I'm pretty sure whatever he was doing to this young woman was him resorting to violence. But he didn't know what he was in for. And I suspect she probably fought back. He's not a very big fellow, and he may have been overwhelmed by her size and her strengths and tenacity to fight back. Good for her. She tried. I wish she had a gun. I wish she had a gun. And when this murderer tried to rape her, presumably, I got to be honest, they say concealing her body, that's just an opportunity to distance herself from the crime, adding that investigators can't rule out sexual assault as a possible motive. I think that's fairly obvious. He was going to try and drag her off and kidnap her and rape her. She fought back, so he killed her. I wish she had a gun. And then when he tried to rape her and kill her, she could have stopped him. I don't want him to die. I don't want anyone to die. I don't want anyone to die, even the worst of the worst. But some people forfeit their lives, and that's a fact of life. There is a legal precedent where you have a right to defend yourself when these people want to kill you. It is sad when they die. I don't like the people who cheer for death in any circumstance. I believe that death is an unfortunate circumstance that arises when people create those circumstances. If this guy were to have died, if Laken was able to have stopped him with even a small weapon, a 22, I'd say, it's sad he died, but it is his fault. The reason I think that, I think life is precious. And, cue all the people commenting about abortion and stuff like that. No, there's very serious, challenging questions. I think abortion is wrong. I just don't know the limits of the law, and so that's my argument. But I'm not going to get into the argument. I'm going to simply say, two-way, baby. Ladies, I got to tell you, the great equalizer, the handgun. Get trained. Learn how to use it. A 22, I suppose the issue with a 22, do they jam? I know. I've got a really great, I think it's a Smith & Wesson, I'm not sure. And it's fantastic, really easy to handle, and it jams a lot. So, in all honesty, Lex, maybe you want a 9mm. Revolver, maybe. I don't know. Don't take advice from me on this one. Consult a self-defense specialist, trainer, all that stuff. Some women, they'll do self-defense training, and that goes a long way. Technique is a lot. But in the end, you're dealing with a man who will overpower you with muscle mass. And you will need that great equalizer. I wish Laken had a gun. I wish he did. I wish he was alive today. I wish the story was criminal alien dies in murder attempt. And I'm not saying I want him to die. I don't. And I don't want anyone to be killed. But the story now is young woman mercilessly beaten to death, skull crushed by a criminal alien. You know what? I can say this. I'm wrong. I don't want a story about this migrant being, having died instead of her. That's what I mean to say, right? I wish the story instead of Laken's death was his, because he's the evil. But I'm wrong. I shouldn't have said that. I'm wrong. The story should be this. Criminal alien turned away at border. Criminal alien turned away at border. Just that. A small blip, a single sentence. Today, a migrant named Jose Ibarra was turned away from the border after his claims of asylum were rejected. That's it. End of story. Because I don't want anyone to get hurt. And I know there are a lot of people who think even if you're a bad person, you should suffer the consequences or whatever. And I'm like, listen, I would prefer it if the murderous rapist died as she defended herself than she died. But I don't want any of them to die. And I don't want anyone to kill anyone. It is the fault of this man this happened. But you know what? Here's the story I'd actually prefer. A Venezuelan migrant approached Donald Trump's border barrier today and turned around and left. That's it. That's what the story should be. I mean, we can be more realistic and say Customs and Border Protection apprehend man at border. Jose Ibarra, 5'7", 26 years old, was turned away and was warned not to come back. That should be the story. It's insane. She was a nursing student, and you've got the media now saying things like the GOP is pouncing or whatever. And I'm like, man, I don't know this lady's politics. A 22-year-old college-age woman, I bet she was a liberal. I bet she was a Democrat. I don't care. This is my country. And in my country, I get to insult and yell at libs. We get to argue with each other because we're one big, very, very angry family. But you come from outside my country and you kill my country's young people, we got a problem. Donald Trump is vowing a mass deportation operation. Good. Former President Donald Trump blasted Democrat border security and law enforcement policies for the murder of Georgia student Laken Riley at the hands of an illegal immigrant, vowing that when elected, he will immediately seal the border and begin the largest deportation operation of illegal criminals in American history. It needs to happen now. Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil had this interview with the head of the CBP union, who said that CBP is facilitating child prostitution, child sex trafficking. I don't know how much more angry I can get at what's going on. And, you know, when I hear from all these people who are like, no, Trump can't win, it's got to be Biden, I'm like, children are being trafficked. They don't care. They don't care. It's insane. I was talking to that guy. I remember I've told you that story about I was at the casino, and I'm like, listen, a point I've made on my show several times. The things the United States has done in foreign war, in countries we did not declare war on, the things that this country has done. Donald Trump, no new wars. Everything else is stamp collecting. They talk about, you know, the Palestinian genocide. That's what they're calling it. And I'm like, well, under Donald Trump, there were no new wars. In fact, there was peace. And they said, yeah, but he was sacrificing the Palestinians for this peace. Listen, if Donald Trump's policy plan is we're not involved, have a nice day, I'll take it. And that means the bad things that happen to this country, well, that's what we must endure to get a president like Trump to fix these problems. So when they come and they say, oh, but Trump's lewd and lascivious. Oh, but Trump's corrupt. I'm like, don't care. Literally don't care. Because Trump's going to stop this. And maybe not perfectly, but he will actually try. Trump will stop the foreign wars. Not perfectly, but he will try. And I will take it. I'm sick to my stomach reading this stuff. I'm like, I don't know, man. Joe Biden, Bidenomics, stupid politics. And then you've got to read a story that describes how this criminal alien who should not have been in this country brutally murdered this young woman. It's pretty wild. I read stories, you know, online a lot. And I think to myself, like, the one sentence a person could have uttered that, and this girl would be alive, the butterfly effect almost. The massive difference in the world in this one moment. Imagine this. Donald Trump gets elected, 2020. This man is turned away at the border. She's alive. That's big, isn't it? Imagine this. She's out for a jog. This psychotic criminal alien is walking up to her when a 60-year-old man looks at him and says, excuse me, sir, do you know what time it is? The criminal alien then is distracted and noticed and stops. Laken Riley runs off, jogging, never thinks twice, makes it home that day. I think about these things. The slightest of moments that would mean that this girl, this young woman, would be alive today. I have to wonder. And you've got people who have defended the Democrats and their border policies, and here we are today. I hope we hear of no more death. You know, I said earlier that I hoped that I would rather have the story be that the illegal immigrant was killed in self-defense by Riley. I'd actually rather the story be that she defended herself, he was arrested and deported. That's the future that we want. Proof. These people commit crimes, they get caught, and we remove them. Instead now, this scumbag in Athens is blaming Donald Trump for it. Such an evil, evil, despicable man. I hope he loses his election. I hope he gets ousted. And I hope we can start to fix this country so that we no longer have to hear stories like this. And I know that they're going to come out and say, Tim, it's only a matter of time before you hear a story about an American guy who kills a 22-year-old. And I'm like, right. And then we will work to solve that problem next. But how about we take one step at a time? If this man wasn't here, this young woman would be alive. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.